So the real juice and the real material for this module is just reading Mar and her wonderful descriptions of these communities and her self-disclosures about herself and her own journey, which I think is all really valuable. But we have to remember she's a person involved here. Now, a lot of the materials that she's giving are oath-bound, as I said before, so it should not be told to anyone who is not initiated. I mean, the question could be, and some fairies would argue, that even the little bits that she's telling you are too much. She does not exactly state things that are exactly secret, but she describes some secret things. It's like she wouldn't tell you that she wouldn't tell you the sacred name of a goddess or an entity, but she would tell you that there is a sacred name. Now, some people say that she has revealed oath-bound lore in this, even by doing this, and they call for her blood. I mean, it's on the internet, but wow, some people really hate her. I would say that she dances around a lot of these notions of oaths and vows and secrets. I mean, she herself says, what is she really interested in? Not becoming a priestess of Wicca or being a full-time OTO person, like there is such a thing. But she wants to learn secrets. And so much of magic is about secrecy. And what is a secret? A secret is something that is told between specific people. If one person has a secret they don't tell anyone, then that's not a secret. That's just something that someone knows. A secret has to be told. It's through its telling and the regulating of the telling that makes it a secret. Also, by saying something is a secret, while simultaneously telling the secret only to specific people, you make that lore invested with a greater sense of solemnity, power, and urgency. Okay, so a lot of the work here that she's doing in her writing is journalistic. I mean, remember, she has vague religious inclinations, but she's really there to write and learn and to write about what she's learning. It's hard to not see her as a sort of spiritual tourist, as a journalist under not so deep cover. But on the other hand, she does seem to have genuine connections to these people and their lore, and she doesn't lie that she's a journalist. But as an aspirant, as someone really like doing these rituals and being involved with these communities, she's kind of half-assed about it. I mean, she isn't really in it. To be fair, the majority of people that are involved in these communities are the same. They come and go. There's a constant churn of new people that are coming into the lower levels that are never initiated and just hang around, or take the early initiations and then leave, and that's fine. And I'm always amazed in all these initiatory communities at just how genuinely kind and positive people are when they face, newbies, and they see a ton of newbies every time. Every time the newbies come in, I mean, priests and priestesses and deacons and people in the OTO for years. And when I go to pagan gatherings, people who have been initiated in things like Fairy or the Alexandrians or the Gardnerians, the high up people who've been doing it for 30 years, they're just so gracious to talk to someone who's just encountering this and having a spirit of kindness and openness and connection. And I mean, I was involved with a social group called Green Spiral when I was in college. And at the time I was practicing neo-shamanism. There wasn't anybody else doing that there. And everybody was a Wiccan. But everybody had different levels. And nobody was really doing rituals officially through the social organization. But there was a sense of fraternity, of connection, of discovery, of sharing what you learned, what you thought, showing new things to new people. And one of the real problems, I think, with Alex Mar's book is that she describes these sort of intense, like high up figures, but that's not really what the majority of the community is. In fact, the largest identity of magic practitioners would be what we call eclectic neo-pagans, and they call themselves eclectic neo-pagans. They're not initiated into anything. They don't have a specific teacher. They read books. They do rituals. It's part of their lives, but it's not a huge part of their lives. They're oriented toward a god and a goddess. They balance things with the elements. They celebrate the neo-pagan holidays. And it's just a part of their life. Just like going to church on Sunday, you go to the Wicca group. So I keep wondering, what type of aspirant is she depicting herself to be? I mean, even Karina asked her, are you a witch or are you just doing research? And, she admits that she just really wants to learn secrets, but she's not called to a religious life. She's not called to go hardcore into this. I mean, I know amongst Thelemites, one of my oldest friends will always say, I see no aspirants in this room. I mean, he's pretty intense. And that's fine, but he's looking to meet people, and the people he connects with the most are people that he considers aspirants, those who aspire to the paths and to self-realization and towards gaining prosperity. So is Mar an aspirant? Not really. I don't think so. I mean, she's trying it on being a neo-pagan and being a Thelemite. She's not really committed to any of those, and she kind of admits it. So I don't know if it's fair to critique her too hard for that. So what's she really interested in, though? She's interested in practicing some new rituals and connecting to a female goddess. That's consistent within everything she does. She pursues those fine. She learns some rituals. She goes to some rituals. She meets some communities. She makes a connection to a vague feminine thing, and that's a big deal for her. That's a good thing. She pursues those. But I would argue she misses the biggest part of these groups. And it's not the rituals that they do, it's the community. It's getting to know a lot of people. It's getting to know the people that have been coming and going for years and years, who have been in these orders, that aren't leaders, that are just, the good, solid folk. Those are the people that I get the most joy out of spending time with. And because of my background and my personality, I tend to end up with the bigger, like, superstar leader people. But I learned long ago that I would enjoy myself much more in the rank and file. I don't need to be in the upper echelon of any religious group. And anytime I've tried to be a part of one, I found myself sorely disappointed. And the more, and maybe I'm just not a very good joiner, the more that I'm just a hang-around who knows a little bit more than the average bear, that's where I'm the happiest. And that's probably where I'm at with the OTO, and that's as far as I'm ever going to go with it. I don't need to be a superstar in that order. I don't need to go up all the initiations. I just like being able to call upon my brothers and sisters in any town I go to. And honestly, there's an oath I took that I can tell you about. And that is that if a man and brother, if a sister, if any of the brethren come to me, I feed them and I put them up for the night. That's a kind of cool thing. And I have driven cross country and stayed at different, at the houses of different people who were affiliated with the lodges that I hadn't met before. And as long as you come with good repute and you know the right customs, it's a pretty good time. I mean, the old Thelema road trip, we call it. It can be a real hoot. All right. So I've argued that she's really focused on connecting to potent individuals. And there's a problem there. She said earlier, when she talked about her life and her relationship, she said that she had like a checkered dating history based on being interested in creative and unstable men. Now, it seems like everyone she's interacting with, Morpheus, Karina, various Thelemites that she likes, they kind of seem like creative, unstable people too. So my question is she on a spiritual quest, or is she sort of dating these different organizations and the people within them in her own sort of way? Is she dating the order rather than becoming a member of a community? And honestly, it's the community that's the big part, at least for me. Okay, so when studying religions, this brings up an interesting problem. When you're trying to make religion sensible, make it intelligible, and religion is so often non-intelligible, who are you going to study? Let's take Catholicism. Who are you going to look at? You got God, saints, priests, acolytes, altar boys, people, Eucharistic ministers, deacons, and then congregants and lay people. If you're trying to make sense of religion, are you going to look at the highest up people? I mean, if you want to understand Buddhism, going and talking to the Dalai Lama, it's a hoot. He'll teach you a lot about Buddhism. But if you're trying to understand the religion as a social function, then you need to look at the communities. And I think a lot of people get confused by confusing the high ups and religious authorities with the average people that make up the very blood of a religious community. Studying lay people is pretty interesting. That's why I'm so interested in folk religions, and I co-edited a book called Living Folk Religions. So what about Mar? Once again, she describes that she likes things that scare her, that are transgressive. She didn't find it with the Midwestern pagans. She didn't find it with the California neo-pagans. She found it with Morpheus. She found it with the OTO right away. She was like, okay, this is scary and exciting. So is she just an adrenaline junkie who's looking for a thrill, for a kick? Or is she looking for what the theorist of religion, Rudolf Otto, calls the mysterium tremendum, the tremendous mystery, the awfulness of God, experiencing the divine as a holy terror, as confronting a divine that is wholly other and wholly the same, that takes your breath away. This notion of fear, scare, discomfort, terror, that can be at the heart of religion. Well, if you're doing it right. There should be something fearful. There should be something unworldly. There should be something challenging. So I think if she were to phrase it that way, there are ideas to encapsulate this thing about how she wants to run toward things that scare her. One of a famous Buddhist teacher, Tenzin Palmo, always says, Itzuma always says, go to the places that scare you. That's the place to practice. So I think there's something to that. She could not find this mysterium tremendum, this holy fear in the tradition she grew up in, but she sure finds it in these groups. One final thought of mine as we look at this beautiful altar that I really like because it has very Buddhist looking eyes and whatnot. I think that's lovely, that altar for a Gnostic Mass. It's odd that she puts so much energy into that fairy practice, money and time into working with Karina, but all her kind of descriptions of what she's doing there don't seem all that exciting. She wants to hang out with that impressive Morpheus, where she can't get anywhere with as a religious teacher. Then she goes to Karina, and she's not really wholly into it, but she ends up really liking her. But the minute she runs into the OTO and Thelema and the Gnostic Mask, she's compelled, she's excited, she seems really into it. So if she's so into it, why does she then go and do all this time with Fairy if Thelema appeals to her so much? There is a twist on this. The OTO is, like I said, a fraternal body. It's a community. There's another order that Aleister Crowley started, which is more similar to what you saw in the Fairy order. That's the AA, the Order of the Silver Star, in which you can write to them and they will give you a teacher. You can contact them in email now, but it used to be you'd write a letter and you would have correspondence with that letter, maybe talk on the phone, maybe not. I've known people who have been doing this for many, many, many years, 20, 30 years. And you have a teacher, that teacher gives you practices that were learned from above. And then as you progress through, you are assigned by the order of the AA, which Dan Gunther is a big part of, they will assign you students and you teach them. So if she had wanted to have that exploration within Thelema, it would be to go to the AA. On the other hand, it takes years to really get advanced to the point you start learning secrets. So in the service of journalism, doing an expose of the AA would take you like 20 years before you had anything interesting to say. So it doesn't really work for her. Now, let's not forget, this isn't a craven thing, but her project is to write a book. And the book is about magic, not really witches, magic and the deployment of magic in America. In fact, she shouldn't have called it Witches of America. And my one pal, Jason Mankey, who's a prominent author, says maybe if it just had a different title, it'd be better. Because it's not about big bodies of witches or everyday witches. It should be called like, remarkable magic practitioners of America, or I don't know, American magic weirdos. I think that would be a better, clearer depiction, because she's not really describing communities or the daily lives of most practitioners of magic or witchcraft. Okay, one more break, and then we're done.